today we are doing our second international tea. It's a series of 5. Today is our second one, and we are presenting the cities of Ashgabat, Turkmenistan, and Hualien, Taiwan. We have with us Alana Gratin, and she is the committee chair for Ashgabat, and we have Yulin Shin, who is the committee chair for Hualien City in Taiwan. So we have 3 people watching us so far. We'll give everybody a chance to get on and make sure that we have everybody watching.
And the YouTube link too?
Yes, we are also live on YouTube. Yep. Oh, we have 5 people. This is great. Wonderful. Hello, everybody that is joining us. If you comment, we can actually see your comments, so don't be shy about doing that. Yep, and I see us here on Facebook. Very good. We got 7 people watching. We'll just give it a couple more minutes.
OJ is wishing us Happy Nowruz, which is a big feast in that part of the world.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. In Ashgabat? Wonderful. I'm just going to pop up one of our videos that we'll be showing later just to make sure that that's still connected. And it is. Hide that. Okay. All right, we've got about 9 people watching. I think we're good to go. Are you ready to take it away, Alana?
I am. You can show the first slide.
Okay, great. Oh, I see OJ is what you call them?
Yeah, OJ is Ogle John Young, and she's from Turkmenistan, came to the University of New Mexico, met a wonderful young man named Nathan Young. That's why she's now Ogle John Young. They're married, have 2 children, and she's been very involved in sister cities. And she's the vice chair for the Ashgabat committee, but she was chair and she was also president of sister cities for some time.
Well, I'm so happy that they're watching. That's awesome. All right. So I'm going to lower Yulin and myself, and Alana is going to take it away.
The purpose of the Sister Cities program is citizen diplomacy, person-to-person connections. And we are this year celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Sister Cities relationship between Ashgabat and Albuquerque. Actually, that was 1990. And the story of how we became Sister Cities is quite an interesting one. Sally Alice Thompson, an Albuquerque resident, and a peace activist, was on a peace tour march from Leningrad to Moscow. And on this walk, which was quite a long time, I think it took 2 weeks, they did do buses for some parts of the transportation. She met a very interesting man from Turkmenistan, and as they compared information about their 2 cities, Ashgabat and Albuquerque had so much in common. And as I go through the presentation, I'll point some of those things out specifically. Can we see that slide that has Sally Alice? So here we have Sally Alice Thompson, and you can put me smaller in the corner if you want, OJ. And so that's Sally Alice Thompson, who started the exchange in 1990. She turned 97 this year, and she was honored by it being Sally Alice Thompson Day just about a week or so ago because of all the contributions she's made as a citizen of Albuquerque. Next to her is Zohra Meredov, whose daughter was in charge of the trip that we took to Turkmenistan. She worked at the U.S. Embassy, and her mother, pictured here, Zofra, was one of the most important translators between English and Turkmen, English and Russian. And then on the other side is the director of the National Library. And I'll talk a little bit more about the Sister Libraries program that we had with Ashgabat and Turkmenistan. The next slide, please. This is a map of the world showing where Turkmenistan is, because a lot of people wouldn't know. And the borders, Iran and Afghanistan, are very significant borders to the south. And now we'll see the next map, which is zooming in on there's another map that has just Turkmenistan. I think it's, okay. Well, we don't have that, so we've moved ahead to I'm going to talk about the old and the new. And Turkmenistan has been at the crossroads of civilization for centuries. Merv, one of the oldest oasis cities in Central Asia, was once the biggest city in the world in medieval times. And this is outside of Mari, which is not very far. We did take a plane to get from Ashgabat to Mari. And this was a very important stop on the Silk Road. The other sister city, which was featured last February 21st, last month, is also on the Silk Road in China, Lanzhou. So both Ashgabat and Lanzhou are part of the Silk Road. It served as the capital of a number of empires and kingdoms over the course of its more than 4,000 year history, and was destroyed in 1221 by the fourth son of Genghis Khan. They saved the lives of all the artisans because they very much appreciated the work that they were doing, and they kept them alive. Next slide, please. Now we have slides of what is the new. And in 1948, there was a major earthquake in Ashgabat that pretty much destroyed most of the city. It was rebuilt during the Russian time, but when Turkmenistan got its independence from Russia in 1991, they began to rebuild the city using their limitless resources of oil and gas. And it is the largest white marble city in the world. Turkmenistan was annexed by the Russian Empire in 1881 and became independent when the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991. And the next slide is also a photograph of Ashgabat with a modern train system and a building in the background. And the next slide, please. Another view of one of the many monuments that has been built in Ashgabat. And the next slide, please. So one of the things that Sally Alice and her walking companion from Turkmenistan talked about was horses. Horses are important in New Mexico, and horses are very important in Turkmenistan. As a matter of fact, some archaeologists believe that the Ahalteke was the first domesticated horse. Alexander the Great, you might have heard of his horse, Bucephalus. There's a lot of stories about Alexander, and his reputation developed from being able to tame Bucephalus. But this breed of horse, the Ahalteke, is a very important part of Turkmenistan and is desired throughout the world by people who really appreciate horses. So here's a monument to the Ahalteke horse. Next, please. Another thing that we have in common is carpets. Here in New Mexico, we have a weaving tradition, both Hispanic and also Navajo. And this is a very intricate carpet that was made in the Carpet Museum. And the next slide, please. So here's a combination of the two. This is actually a carpet, and it represents the Ahalteke horse in this particular carpet. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the president of Turkmenistan, Gurbanguly Berdimuhamedow. I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. And in front of him is the sword of neutrality. Next slide, please. One of the things that's so very unique about Turkmenistan is that it is a declared neutral country. I think similar to Switzerland, for instance. And even though they do have a military to protect their borders, they are very specifically a neutral country. And this is the representation of that in the National Museum, because the president and the sword is still in the scabbard and is not removed. Next slide, please. Here are some pictures of in the celebrations that we got to attend. There's 5 different regions in Turkmenistan, and each one is represented by their own costume and their own music and dance, and actually their own design on the rugs. Next slide, please. While we were there at one of these celebrations, I met these young girls, and 2 of them had been exchange students in the United States during high school. And this was a competition that was run by the government. And one of these girls, I don't know which one, is the artist who did this picture of the horse. Next slide, please. And this is a young family group in traditional Turkmen costume. And the next slide, please. Turkmen carpets are really so prized and valued. And this is a clip of the market that we went to, and we saw the carpets. Are we going to be able to play it, or should we just pass to the next slide? To move on to representations image-wise of the relationships that we have, that were exchanges back and forth, Turkmen people coming here, people from Ashgabat coming here, and us going to Ashgabat. So beginning with the young women entrepreneurs, some of whom were in arts and crafts. And this is a picture of them at the Museum of Indian Art and Culture with a Navajo weaver, and she's showing them her loom and how the Navajo carpets are made. Next slide, please. Here is another group that went to Sky City, Acoma, and toured there. Next slide, please. This is a part of a sister libraries exchange, and this was the Academy of Sciences, and I had brought that projector to the young woman to the very far left, who was an American teaching in Turkmenistan, teaching in Ashgabat at the time, and the other people, the woman to the far right is the librarian there, and the other 2 are teachers. Next slide, please. This was a group of Turkmen students who came to Albuquerque for our Robo-Rave, which is the robotics competition that is international, and students come from all over the world. Next slide, please. This was a presentation done for librarians at Mari that, or maybe this was in Ashgabat, I'm not sure which, because we had sister library exchanges involving Albuquerque Public, UNM, CNM, and then the National Library of Turkmenistan. And I was doing a presentation on tribal libraries in New Mexico. Next slide. Now, this was so amazing to me. The libraries, there's one major national library in each one of the 5 regions, and they're identical architecturally. And the top of each library has an observatory. Next slide, please. This is now the exchanges where we were hosted in Ashgabat. And this is a delegation in 2011, and we're with the ambassador Patterson, and the Sally Alice is there, second from the right. And then other Albuquerque residents. There's actually a young woman from Helmstadt who came with our delegation. And I believe the next thing is a clip of an exchange that we had with, oh, no, these are the girls at one of the institutes that we visited. At the signing of the agreement in 1990 between the mayor of Ashgabat and the mayor of Albuquerque, one of the important parts of the exchange was the music of John Robb, which was shared with the head of the Turkmen State Conservatory, Recep Alayarov, and one of his students, Tatiana Vetranaskia, came from Ashgabat. She was at the conservatory there, and she studied at UNM, getting her master's, and eventually she founded the New Mexico School of Music, which still runs and is a very important part of our community. And she's also involved in our sister cities. Other Turkmen students that have come, Oguljan Young, I mentioned her, and also there are 3 students presently at UNM from Turkmenistan who are studying at the present time. Next slide. And so when we went back to visit, the women entrepreneurs had a feast for us in the yurt. And in the middle is Nathan Young. And 3 to the left is his wife, Oguljan, and the rest are either the women entrepreneurs or visitors from Albuquerque. And now we should have the clip of Diane Stetson, is that correct? Is an Albuquerque artist who participated in exchanges in Turkmenistan, and she has a documentary on her website, and I just wanted to play a small clip because she says some really important things about her experience.
In November, I was invited by the State Department for my second stint in Turkmenistan as a cultural liaison, this time to co-curate an exhibit with the director of the Fine Art Museum. The exhibit, The Spirit of Two Deserts, was historic in that it showcased artists from Turkmenistan together with artists from the States for the first time. It was one of the keystones of a week-long program, American Culture Days in Turkmenistan. It was so moving to greet some of the painters whom I had met 2 years ago. This time we were all participating in the same exhibition. In many cases, the work by artists working half a world apart displayed striking similarities in palette and inspiration, making visual the original underlying concept, which was to connect the populations of both countries through the common experience of their desert landscapes as expressed by the artists. The exhibit also became a reminder of how small our world has become and how precious the natural world is to all of us. The opening reception was quintessential Turkmenistan in formality and elegance. I had a traditional Turkmen dress made for the occasion and spoke a bit of Turkmen, which went a long way in expressing my respect for Turkmen culture. It was just remarkable what a difference that dress made. I received an email recently from a Turkmen man that read, "When you were here, you rocked by wearing a long Turkmen dress. Thanks for doing that. Personally, I was very touched." I was assisted by a most talented young Turkmen interpreter, Maisa Napesova. We joined 2 other representatives from the States in a yurt where we shared a traditional Turkmen meal. Emmy Award-winning Amanda Pope and Alex Ago from USC School of Cinematic Arts brought movies subtitled in Turkmen that provoked powerful conversation among students and teachers. Mahogany Jones, a hip-hop group from Detroit, did a great job interfacing with the audience, working with the young Turkmen dancer who spontaneously
If you want to see the rest of the documentary, you can go to Diane Stetson's website, and I don't exactly know how long it is, but it's probably between 20 and 30 minutes. So I just wanted to mention that there have been so many different exchanges, including water engineers. I need to find the paper. Water engineers, entrepreneurs, journalists. Oh, and there's also been university exchanges. Professors from here have gone to Turkmenistan to teach, and Turkmen professors have come here as well. I had a list of all the different exchanges, and somehow it's... Okay, here we go. We also had student exchanges in the early years, Native American dancers. There were planners for the Asian Games in Turkmenistan who came to New Mexico because they wanted to learn more about disability access in major venues, because they don't have that planned into their architecture the way they do here in the United States. And then there was an outstanding group of performers. There were over 80 musicians, singers, and dancers who came to perform in the United States. They had a concert in Washington, D.C., and then they came here to Albuquerque. And the auditorium at the Marriott Hotel was so packed that the fire marshal came and said there no more people can go in the room. But it was just the most wonderful, wonderful thing to have those 80 performers from Ashgabat. There was also, during the balloon fiesta one year, I believe it was the anniversary of Albuquerque and the founding of Albuquerque, that we had a delegation of performers come from Ashgabat who performed here as well. So there's been, over the past going on 31 years, many different groups that have come from Turkmenistan to the United States and from here there. But with the pandemic, it's been challenging, and we're hoping as time moves ahead that we'll be able to pick this up. Now, we do have a very special event coming up on May 25th, which is the founding of the city of Ashgabat 140th anniversary. And this will be May 25th. So check out our Facebook page for more details on that. But we're planning an exchange now. We're planning events between Ashgabat and Albuquerque during that time. So we're going to close this part of our presentation with a short clip of one of the parades that we attended in 2011, the 20th anniversary of Turkmenistan's independence from Russia. Plan to celebrate the 140th anniversary of the founding of Ashgabat.
Alana, I think we missed the first of that. Just say one more time. May 25th is what?
May 25th is the anniversary of the 140th anniversary of the founding of Ashgabat, which, by the way, I meant to mention is City of Love. And their national heroes are poets.
I love
that.
Not
military people, but poets. So that's something to mention as well. So May 25th, we'll be celebrating the 140th anniversary with them virtually.
And today is World Poetry Day, so it's very fitting that we're having this conversation.
With Ashgabat.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. That presentation was fabulous. I think we learned a lot about a country that I think a lot of Americans don't even know exists. And I love that we got to immerse ourselves in it. So up next is our presentation on Hualien, Taiwan with Yulen Shen. And Yulen will be popping up here. There he is.
Hello.
Hello. So I am going to let you take it away and immerse us in Taiwan.
Okay, thank you, Anj. We need the first slide. This is the last, I think.
I'm so sorry. I still had it staged from when we met a little earlier. Okay, here we go.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Yuling Shan. I am the chair of the Hualien Committee on the Albuquerque Sister Cities Foundation, and my co-chair is Rubin Xu. And we're honored to have this opportunity to introduce Hualien, Taiwan to everyone. And before I start, I have to mention that I need to first thank Alana for her wonderful presentation on Ashgabat. And in fact, 5 years ago, almost to the date, I visited Ashgabat as part of a small delegation from the sister cities. And it was truly an amazing city. So now, back to Hualien, Taiwan. Next slide, please. Again, I have a world map. In fact, if you look toward your left between Asia and Europe, that was the Caspian Sea, and Turkmenistan is right there to the east of the Caspian Sea. Then if you move to the east across the Central Asia to China and to the Pacific coast, that's the island of Taiwan, which I highlighted. And Taiwan is a small island, but it's not tiny. And on a reasonably scaled world map, you can easily spot it. To its northeast is it's Japan, the several bigger islands, and to its west is the China mainland, and to its south is the Philippines, another group of islands. So next slide, please. Now let's zoom in to Taiwan. This is the island itself. And on this map, we have the topographical features shown. So you can see that the most of the land is actually occupied by mountains. So naturally, people live in the flatter part of the space. So it's mainly along the west coast from north to south. And the east is mountainous. And our sister city, Hualien, is actually on the east coast, facing the vast Pacific Ocean. And before we dig into Hualien, let's talk a little more about Taiwan in general. Next slide. So here, I have another map. On the west side of Taiwan, I highlighted 3 cities. Taipei to the north, that's the capital city. And then there's Taichung and Kaohsiung. Now, on the east side, Hualien, that's our sister city. And you can see that on the east side, there is a strip of flat land, very narrow, stretched north to south. And to the north, it's the city of Hualien. And at the south end of that thin strip flat land is the city of Taitung. And in fact, Taitung also in recent years has close interactions with Albuquerque, mainly due to their hot air balloon activities. Now, I included some text here and hope you can see them. For the whole country, we have a population of close to 24 million people. So it's very crowded there. The population density is one of the highest in the world. And the language and culture are predominantly Chinese. There's also some Japanese influence. since before the end of the Second World War, and Taiwan was actually ruled by the Japanese for about 50 years. The climate is subtropic, and the whole island has its unique geography. There are numerous mountain peaks of over 10,000 feet high in this small space. And also, there is a booming high-tech industry in the island. And also, there are very active manufacturing and agricultural sectors. So that's a quick overview of Taiwan. Next slide. Here I include on this slide and a couple of others, just some diverse and drastically different landscapes and sceneries in Taiwan, so you can have some idea. To the right is the capital city of Taipei. And then to the left is actually our sister city, Hualien, and we will, of course, talk more about it. Next slide. To your right, it shows the unique rock formation on the northern coast of Taiwan. And then in deep south, there is this forest land. That's actually very close to the southern coast. That's in the Kenting National Park. Next slide, please. And here I have three images. The one on your upper right is the cherry blossom season in the Hualien farm. That's in the north central part of the island. And below it is the highest peak. That's the Yushan, or the Jade Mountain. It's not just the highest peak in Taiwan. It's actually the highest peak in the entire East Asia. That includes the eastern part of China and eastern part of Siberia and the Japan, Korea, and Southeast Asia. Altogether, the highest peak actually is in Taiwan. That's this Jade Mountain peak. I think it's about 3,925, if I remember correctly, meters high, above sea level, of course. And to the left is the Alishan forest. This image shows the giant 1,000-year-old tree in that park. Next slide, please. Now, for many international visitors, probably the number one place they would like to visit in Taiwan is this National Palace Museum. It houses the world's largest collection of Chinese art treasures, spanning 5,000 years of history. And the items were originally in the Forbidden City in Beijing. But these items were evacuated during the Second World War and the Chinese Civil War. First to the other parts of China, that's to the inner part of the Chinese mainland, and later to Taiwan. So these items got settled there. And the collection is very large. It has over 600,000 pieces. They were the part of the Chinese imperial collection since the Song dynasty. The collection is so large that only a very small part can be put on display at any given one time. And the rest were actually hidden in the caves of the mountain right behind the museum main building that's facing us in the picture to the left. So that's the National Palace Museum. And here I just show some snapshots of the folk arts and religious activities in Taiwan. The traditional religions practiced in Taiwan are actually a mixture of Buddhism, Taoism, and some folk religions. And most of the island's places of worship actually combine all three traditions. Next slide. Now, it is impossible not to talk about food when introducing Taiwan. The tourists and business travelers love to go back to Taiwan again and again, in no small part because of the food. So you can easily find all traditional Chinese regional specialties, as well as local street foods and snacks all over the island. Next slide. Now back to our sister city, Hualien. The city has a population of about 100,000. And just like many other cities in Taiwan, it has a crowded streets. But in and around the city, there are plenty of recreational areas and historical sites, as well as breathtaking natural sceneries. We will actually have a couple of short video plays to show you in just a few minutes. Next, please. Now, the sister city relationship between Albuquerque and Hualien was established in 1983. And there was an official celebration with the signing of Charter of Affiliation that was held in the Albuquerque Convention Center on November 25th in 1983. And here I have a scanned copy of the Charter of Affiliation. To the left is the English version, and the Chinese one is to the right. At that time, the mayor of Albuquerque is Harry Kinney, who actually signed the charter. And I also need to mention that one of the sister cities members, Dr. David Shi, who is also a past president of the Albuquerque Sister Cities Foundation, played an instrumental role in connecting the two cities, leading to the official relationship. Next. The last time we had a membership trip to Hualien in Taiwan was quite some time ago, in 2013. And the photo to your left is actually outside of the National Palace Museum I was talking about. Next slide. And this is in Hualien, the Hualien City Hall. Their mayor had a reception for us, and it was quite a reception. And we all had a very good time over there. Next slide. Again, while in Hualien, of course, we visited some of the tourist attractions. This is in the Torogo National Park. Next slide. Speaking of that national park, I actually have a drone footage to show you. There are two parts. One is in the Qingshui cliff, and the other is in the Torogo National Park. So the video play is about 4 minutes long, and we will come back to our slideshow after the video. Thank you. So that was the drone footage of the local sceneries in Hualien. Back to our slide presentation. I mentioned that the last time we had a membership trip to Hualien was in 2013. And in fact, last year we were planning on this trip for May 2020, but then it was canceled for obvious reasons. And we will have to wait, of course. And we do plan to move ahead when the situation allows. It depends on the not just the pandemic situation in the U.S., but also in Taiwan. And even if people here can go, but they have to open up their border, and so that we can more easily travel there. So we don't know when, but we will keep a close eye on the situation and then decide. Next slide. So speaking of COVID, I want to show you that. Anj, there's probably one slide before this one. I don't know if you can locate it. Yes, that's the one. Thank you. Well, some of you may be wondering what is the COVID situation in Taiwan and also in our sister city, Hualien. In fact, overall, there have been very few cases in Taiwan. As of a little over a week ago, there were about 900 some imported cases plus 77 domestic cases. And the map on the right shows their statistics of the domestic cases. And in Hualien, in fact, there's none, it's zero. So people's lives have been basically normal. So we can see that from the next slide. This was 3 months ago in Hualien. They had their annual marathon event. And if you remember, December 2020, that was the time when the pandemic was raging in the US, in most of the world. But there, people gathered, people played, people ran, and it seems like there's just nothing happened. And the photos on the right-hand side, if you look at the third row, the leftmost photo on the third row is actually the mayor of Hualien, and he participated in the event himself. Next, please. But early on, this I think is in April of 2020, and the mayor of Hualien, Jiaxian Wei, and his staff members, they actually prepared the PPEs and hand soaps for their sister cities. Of course, that includes Albuquerque. So to the right is actually a package that they sent us. And if you remember at the time that all these PPEs are scarce in the US, and they basically had no cases over there, and then so they are thinking about people, their friends around the world. So they sent us what they made in the next slide. And this is our mayor receiving the packages sent by Hualien. Next slide. So this is the last part of the presentation, and it's another video footage, about 12 minutes long. I think we have the time to play it all. It's all about Hualien City, and it's prepared by the Hualien City office. So we can try to watch the video now.
The brilliance of dawn is the start of cultivation for ancestors. Hualien dwellers like to enjoy a leisurely breakfast because the sun shines first behind the mountains. We are the first city to see the light of day in Taiwan. Hualien is not a big city, but we have transport by sea, land, and air. Only a 20-minute ride is needed whether to the airport or the port. It takes 20 minutes from Hualien City to Qixingtan and just 40 minutes to the Taroko Gorge. This is the busiest street in Hualien City. It is called Zhongshan Road. There are all sorts of transports which can be easily obtained. Danish philosopher Kierkegaard said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards." Hualien City in Sachilayatang, Sakisaya. In Ameitang, Galingu is situated on the northernmost point of Hualien County. It is the third most densely populated county township in the country. Once the city of choice for Japanese immigration planning, considerable architectural sites were left between 1909 to 1945. Traveling along the old railway as if going through time as you witness the path of Hualien history. Time left its mark on the architecture and prompted Hualien development. This piece of land, once left by predecessors, continues to bustle. Religion is a belonging of the spirit. As Hualien City develops, various temples and churches are placed upon this land, along with the immigrating and residing population. is home to multiple ethnicities, no matter where they come from. We belong to a whole, loving each other in peace, respect, and harmony. The city develops along with the progress of civilization. Various effort and heart to make a living took root between generations vibrantly in Hualien City. The new and the old continues to blend and collide, intertwining into an ever more fascinating lifestyle. Tracks are left behind footsteps. Hualien humanities. Dajin, a story. They kept traces from the life of predecessors. These items have their fixed exhibitions, telling the story to later generations. Creativity is scattered throughout every corner of the city along people's life, bringing Hualien City to life with surprises all over the streets and alleys. This is our new city feature. We have various daily cuisines, which may appear ordinary, but are very satisfying. Being splendid, Hualien attracts many of those striving for their dreams. One can encounter Aboriginal creative shops on the streets of Hualien. The old Japanese housings create new style with its hanging signs. And industrial style and romantic elements combine into exquisite retails. There are also dining from new residents around the world, along with an English barber opened by an Englishman. Our city boasts of adorable animal landmarks. Not only turning the fort into Mickey Mouse, but also with the 12 zodiacs acting as city ambassadors around every corner of the city. This is a picturesque city. putting your mind to ease, whether near the mountains or water. It is a friendly environment of perfect hospitality. Sunshine and greenery fill this entire city. For a vibrant life, the body needs to be healthy. Hualien encourages its citizens to work out together.
他先打到抢握的栏杆，反弹下来，跟你预设想要接到球的一个位置不一样。哦，机会来了，张永汉这一球，哇，上去了！
Healthy, slow-living leisure exists in every corner of the city. Fresh Hualien, city of vibrancy.
Okay, that's our presentation about Hualien and Taiwan. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you so much. I think I fell in love with Taiwan and Hualien City during that presentation. I know where I want to go next.
Join us.
Yes. Wow. I had no idea. Are you with us, Alana? She's a bit frozen. You're muted. There you are.
We have a question on the side here, and I'm really interested in knowing the answer. What is stinky tofu?
Okay, that is a famous street food in Taiwan, and it's stinky. It's tofu, of course, and but there is that special appeal to a lot of people, and yeah, although it's stinky, but when you taste it, it's actually different from when you smelled it.
It's probably
And
like some of those cheeses that we have in Europe.
yeah, it's in a similar spirit, but it's not cheese there.
Of course. Tofu. Oh, that was wonderful. We didn't have too many questions. I wish next time I hope more people send us questions because that's always fun. Well, it's such a great opportunity to have to ask them. So I guess that about closes out our presentation for today. We will be back here again on April 25th for our third international tea. And I'm going to let Alana sort of talk us through what will be happening on that day.
Okay, so coming up on the 25th of April, we have Sasebo, Japan, and we have Guadalajara, Mexico. So those will be the two sister cities featured at that time. And we've also lined up for May, Helmstadt and I think not Lusaka. Helmstadt and Chihuahua will be May. And then the sister cities for June will be Lusaka and Albuquerque, Spain. But keep looking at our Facebook page because we do post things there, hopefully on an ongoing basis. All our different chairs put things about their. Check out our new website, which you see in the banner below, www.abqsistercities.org. We have a new website, and keep in touch. Also, give us feedback through the Sister Cities website. There's emails for each one of the chairs. So if questions occur to you about any of the cities, you can go to the email address for each one of the chairs, and then they'll get that question directly. But we'd also like some feedback. If you hear of people who had trouble logging in, if we could get more information, if there's any problem with that, because we did have people say they had trouble logging in, but we couldn't get enough information to help troubleshoot whatever the problem was. But we're doing this live streaming on Facebook and also on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, so thank you for bearing with us. We do apologize if there's any technical difficulties out there. We have heard that if you are joining us on YouTube and you arrive to our YouTube page before we begin, that you have to refresh it to actually see the live appear. So that could be an issue. But we definitely want to know what's working and what isn't working. So please let us know. And please share this on your pages so that your friends can take a little mini vacation as well. That's how I felt like it was, getting to see something different and learn something new, since we haven't really been anywhere in the last 12 months or so. And I think that about does it, unless anyone has something to say.
Well, I just wanted to emphasize that it is recorded both on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. So if you wanted to refer somebody to it, it's there.
Okay, wonderful. Well, we will see you all hopefully back here on April 25th. And I encourage you to let your friends and family know about this. If you have any young people in your lives, this could be a good thing for them to get involved with academically. And if you have any educators or teachers in your lives, let them know as well. So with that, I'm going to sign us off, and I hope everyone has a beautiful rest of their Sunday.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.